Excited that you could sit down with me. For people who don't know you, Megan, who are you? And tell us a little bit about your background.
Thanks, Joshua. So, my name is Megan Winterberg. My husband and I co founded the Timber Group. So, that is a short term rental property management company here in SLO County and also a self management resource company. Quick 1 minute backstory on us: we are real estate investors. So, we built an extensive portfolio of short term rentals out of state, rehabbed 5 of those properties, did this all within 2 years, 7 purchases. We still have 6 completely remotely. So we didn't step foot in any property for over 2 years. And this portfolio grosses 800,000 a year. So, and we self-manage and continue to self-manage till this date.
So you have 6 rentals currently.
Yes.
That's amazing. And so they're all out of state, but you offer the kind of the approach that you've taken that has dramatically grown your successful portfolio, and you're helping investors here on the Central Coast, if they're investing here or outside of the area, to kind of learn the what you've learned throughout your process.
Yeah, we really wanted to create an investor focused company. So that's what the Timber Group is. So we saw a large void in SLO County for investor focused short term rental management companies. I know as an investor, I've seen these other companies and I think they're overcharging for subpar performance. We wanted to help investors keep more profits because our goals are more revenue, more cash flow, and maintain the integrity of your property. And so that's why we created and charge less than most locally. But I also don't think property management is for everybody. I mean, I still self manage across the country. So we created extensive self management resources so you could manage anywhere in the world, honestly. And basically, every document that I've used and creating our 7-figure business, I've compiled together to help others.
And we were talking before we started the this dialogue here about how many options there are in the world nowadays. There's so many options for investors, so many different programs, and for somebody who's looking to invest in short-term rentals, you've already done it, and so you can say, hey, this is what I've done, and this is what works, and they can take those tools that kind of curated and not spend all that extra time to find out the best tools to self-manage if that's their goal. So I think that's ingenious, because as we into the future, there's going to be more and more options, and really understanding what the best options are to save yourself time, and time is money. So I think that's a really smart move for those self-managers.
Yeah,
So
nothing's a secret. I would say I'm an open book when it comes to softwares, pricing strategies, messaging templates. I mean, this whole short-term rental vision allowed me to leave corporate America. So any way to help others.
yeah, and you do have a great story with that as far as moving from the corporate America to, or I would say, an entrepreneur investor. So that's really awesome that you've been able to do that, and that you're helping other people do that as well, which is a kind of a great segue into I guess the second question, which is, how has your portfolio grown, and what have you learned along the way? What would have been the top things that you've learned as you've grown your business?
I would say that no matter where you're investing or looking to scale, the first one's going to be the hardest by far because it's gut wrenching whether you're hiring that proper manager. I mean, especially sight unseen and having to remodel it. But it was worth every penny, and number two comes a lot easier. I've also noticed that across any market, especially in SLO County too, though, you need to be competitive. Short-term rentals are increasing. It's the hot topic right now. And if you're looking to just throw something out there with outdated furniture and decor, it's not going to gross what you want it to.
Yeah, I think not only picking the location, but having a great location, but having a design element to your furniture makes a huge difference, because that offers the opportunity for people to just make it a very easy choice, right? Because they're going to go, okay, I love the location, and I love the decor, I love the interior decoration. So those kind of aesthetics, I think, make a big difference. So what are some of the mistakes that early, investors, maybe they've had a couple duplexes that they've rented long term. Maybe they've got a house in Pismo Beach or Shell Beach. It's their vacation home, and they're thinking, we're not going to be living there or vacationing there as often. Maybe we can turn it into a short-term rental. What are some of the common mistakes that people make when they're first getting started with their short-term rental investing goals?
One is thinking it's more passive than it is. Short-term rentals are active management. So it does take daily work, daily communication. If you're not communicating timely to guests, checking pricing, checking calendars, it's going to reflect in your reviews, which means you're going to get less bookings and less revenue. So that's a common mistake that I see. And then also owners not budgeting, or hosts, whether it's theirs or they're doing it for someone else. So just not budgeting for the capital expenditures that are going to come up, understanding the wears and maintenance, or the wear and tear on your property. So you are making dramatically more revenue. So that additional wear and tear is worth it, but preparing those, or not anticipating that there's going to be hard days. I actually have a nightmare guest right now, and I've had them before, and it's going to happen. And it's a matter of taking a moment, knowing that they're going to be gone soon, and what can I do differently to not prevent that again. But sometimes you do everything you can, and you're just going to get one of those.
I think it's important to set expectations for yourself as an investor, and I have an investor right now that's been a long-term rental investor. And when you're investing in multifamily like he is, there's some passive aspect to it, but there's some active aspect to it, because he's self-managing. So he goes there and he does some of the repairs himself with his team. He answers tenant questions, etc. He gets his own tenants in there. And we're talking about moving them into commercial, triple net commercial, which is going to take a little bit more time up front to find a tenant. But once the tenant's in there, they're going to take care of all of those, improvements and items like that he would take care of if he's, being an owner operator. But on the other side, it sounds like short-term rentals, like what you're talking about, really the investor needs to understand it's almost like running a hotel in a way. Like you really have to engage and offer customer service. If you're self-managing, that's why I think somebody like yourself is a good fit, because you already know what's going on. But it sounds like, and what I advise to people is having clear expectations so you're not disappointed.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. If you know what you're getting into, I think self-management can be completely worth it and more revenue in your pocket if you're up for that challenge. I mean, I manage multiple properties and run businesses. It can be done. It's just not for everybody.
So a question on that, talked about having those expectations, having, the right, when you're really leaning into providing great service to your customers. As far as the furnishings or picking out furniture, do you have any suggestions on that for people? Maybe they have a vacant house, or maybe the furniture is not really aesthetically up to date or just doesn't quite fit. If people don't have an eye for their interior furnishings, do you have some suggestions on either saving money or just getting furnishings that can last multiple tenants in there?
Yeah, I don't design anything myself. So I have found the right vendors to work with me who have more of the aesthetic eye than I do, but also to set very clear expectations for short-term rental standards. Because you're not buying IKEA items that are going to break in a week, but you're also not buying very expensive items that are going to get ruined. So there's a great middle ground. And I like to warn clients, because I have furnished multiple properties, bare bones, even a 7-bedroom, 3,800 square foot house. It was a lot. Something that I think is a good guide, because there is an upfront budget. So let's say it's a 3-bedroom house and there's nothing in it. No TV, no appliances, no hot tubs. You could say up to $10,000 a bedroom. That doesn't mean for the actual bedroom, but if it's a 3-bedroom property, it may take up to $30,000, because I like to overestimate, to add TVs, kitchenware, beds, mattresses, everything you need to go live. Now you can definitely backtrack that more, and I work with multiple designers in different markets and different budgets, so you can prepare. And there's also different ways that you can finance these purchases. I don't pay for my design up front. I usually put some of it on a 0% credit card and then let my rentals just pay it off that first year.
And I think that's also important to keep in mind, because as far as budgeting wise, if you buy a $300,000 house, right, that you're looking to make into a short-term rental, the cost is going to be about the same for those furnishings. So if it's a $300,000 house, just to kind of use easy math, That's
Yeah.
10% of your overall cost to furnish. But if you buy, let's say, $1 million or $1.5 million house, it's a completely different, that would be what, 3% if it's $1 million house that you
Hmm.
should budget for the furnishings, right? So that's kind of an interesting, idea or thought process when it comes to understanding your budget and the percentages that would go into really getting it short-term rental ready.
Yeah, and I mean, you could always replace a pool table with a less expensive ping pong. So there's always great alternatives. Like I have great mattresses that are very Amazon friendly, middle of the road. I've spent less than 30 and I've spent over 80. So it really depends on what outcome you're looking to get.
So, as far as the short-term rental market or the laws that are happening, right? I know that there have been some changes recently, and I just was curious if you could expand upon some of the changes that some investors, should be mindful of for short-term rentals. I know that, let's say in Morro Bay, they've got some rules about short-term rentals. Some cities are much more open, some cities not so much open. Talk to us a little bit about what you are seeing out there as far as some of the changing laws for short-term rentals.
So I would call SLO County like a smorgasbord of different regulations based off the city itself. So some things that I'm seeing currently is some cities where if we want to just use Paso Robles, for example, where if you're in the city and not county, they do allow short-term rentals, but only a certain amount. So you have to think of how many people are already on that wait list for a permit and what number are you going to be, and are you willing to wait those years if you purchase that property? Or do you look in areas where you know you can obtain a short-term rental permit immediately, like Atascadero or Paso County? There's multiple areas that can still cash flow well as short-term rentals, but understanding in the city what markets do and do not require regulations to know if you can even be looking. I just had a client who was looking in downtown Paso, not even understanding the permitting process. So he had to do a whole 180 because he did not do his due diligence ahead of time. But then also consider what you're renting. So you can't be looking to just rent ADUs as short-term rentals, accessory dwelling unit, granny units. So there's different criteria there. So just when in doubt, talk to your city. I tell people all the time they are your friend, not your enemy, because you make it easy on them, they're going to make it easy on you. So give them a call. It's not going to get you in trouble.
That's good advice. That's a good segue into the last question that I have. Here for the Central Coast, right? This is such a destination area. We've got such great climate. We've got, such a great mix of things to do. Whether it's wine tasting, visiting Hearst Castle, going to downtown SLO, going to the beach. There's so many activities, hiking. What are you seeing? What are you excited about as far as different locations for somebody who's maybe making a short-term rental approach? Are you excited about Pismo? Are you excited about Shell Beach, Paso Robles? I know there's opportunity in every city, but where are you mostly looking as far as those opportunities?
Well, I'll tell you where I'm looking is we're also looking to expand our own portfolio here with short-term rentals. So we've been looking in multiple markets. I'll start north and work down. So in North County, I don't think you can go wrong between Atascadero, Templeton, and Paso. I've looked at numbers between all three. Paso currently comes in at the strongest for return on investment just for multiple factors with revenue. We've seen how Paso has grown. But Atascadero, I feel like, is that up and coming. You may not realize it, but then you go downtown. It's beautiful. It's closer to San Luis Obispo that many people want to visit. So I don't think you can go wrong up there. The coastal towns have such a strong presence for a vacation that if you're able to find one that's permit friendly, anywhere from Grover to Oceano up through San Luis County can still be great opportunities. I've even seen Napomo and San Maria starting to build up as well. So I personally don't go that far, but I have looked at the numbers there. So I do see opportunity in almost every city here.
Yeah, I would agree with you as far as Paso Robles. I think that area, Paso Robles, Templeton, and Atascadero, what we call North County, here in San Luis Obispo County, I think there's huge potential there. You have the opportunity to invest kind of in the downtown sector, close to the downtown Paso area, which is just a really charming spot. And then there's
Yeah.
so many kind of outside of the area, in the county type country feel that you're able to connect with, that more country feeling of living, next to nature, and then you're able to, go visit the wineries if that's what you're, visiting for, and you're still not that far away from the coast if you want to take a day to go to the ocean. So I really am optimistic about Paso. We've seen it already in the last years, and I think you're right on as far as Atascadero. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Hugely successful as far as location. I mean, you get out to Morro Road, to Morro Bay in 15 minutes, and then you're 15 minutes down to San Luis Obispo, and then if you want to go visit Paso Robles and go wine tasting or maybe play golf or whatever you're doing, you're 10 minutes away. So I think you're spot on as far as that's concerned.
You made
Um,
me, I didn't say one thing that I think is important to know because I really pay attention to where my guests are coming from, especially the ones that are going to North County quite a bit. LA and San Francisco, we are smack dab in the middle. They want that country, they want that winery feel, but also many Cal Poly parents that may not want to stay directly in San Luis because they want more of the experience in wine tasting. You get the San Luis, want to be right there about the kids, but I get quite a few parents coming to visit, say I might see my kid a day or two where they're going to drive to my place in Atascadero so I can go have fun. So surprised me how many parents are going to North County.
That's very insightful, and I think that's a really clear value proposition for yourself, for anybody who's looking to invest in short-term rentals, because you have some of that kind of behind the scenes perspective. So thanks for sharing that. That's really interesting to know. And again, yeah, you're right. We're right in the middle between LA and San Francisco, and it makes a lot of sense for people if they're looking for a weekend getaway or a week getaway. This is the
Yeah.
place to be. I mean, absolutely.
There's a reason we live here.
That's right. Thank you for taking the time. Any parting words before we wrap up here? How can people reach out to you?
Yeah, so if you want to come say hello, I offer free 15-minute Zoom calls to anybody, and you can access that on our website. So you want to talk about just getting started a potential property, you can visit our website. It's the www.thetimbergroup, Timber group.co, not .com, because .co, I guess, is the new kid in town. And just don't be afraid to get started. If you're interested in short-term rentals, we were scared to death. It was my husband's idea. I thought it was a terrible idea. And look at us multiple years later. So it's not as hard as it may seem. It's worth it.
Well, thanks for taking the time. We really appreciate that. I'll make sure to put down your contact information below here so that people can reach out to you. But yeah, Megan, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate all the wisdom and the experience you've shared, and yeah, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.